We were pretty famous back in high school.
Trust us. Had a whole future ahead of us, but now we suck.
All that potential now is flowing in the aqueducts.
Through the sands of time, many did forget.
But now our time has come to resurrect. But a podcast?
Sad I know, but can you blame us?
We are desperate to be much more than high school famous. Let's not waste this golden
so
gold
much
bars.
so much
Gold bullion.
so much chat we just had prior to hitting record, and it was just all golden. The rest of this episode's going to be fuck all.
Some tin.
It's good. Yeah,
It's gonna be some bendable,
it's whatever
rusty tin.
year the tin wedding is. I don't know what
The
year that
third.
Is
the,
it?
the tin wedding?
Well,
Like
tin,
you have
like
a
the
wedding
tin
every year?
anniversary.
The
Sorry.
anniversary.
Yeah,
No, I just pulled third out of my. I think there
out of your.
I have no idea.
What?
is there a tin
Probably.
wedding anniversary?
Let's look it up. I'm sure. I
Do it.
feel like we brought these. We've talked about these before.
I don't know if we specifically identified the tin anniversary, though. So, while Matt is looking that information up, hello everyone, students. Welcome into High School Famous. Please turn your textbooks to page 214. So far, we may be learning about tin and or anniversaries and or crypto projects that pay $37 an hour to beta test.
The 10th
What?
wedding anniversary is traditionally celebrated with tin or aluminum gifts. So there you go.
Oh.
The 10th.
Good thing I didn't technically make it to. I think I technically did make it to 10,
Did you?
but we were already so separate by that point. We just didn't. It wasn't final until after I think the actual 10th a year
Gotcha.
of being marred.
Nice.
Matt, are you?
Because you're like,
a
I can't possibly try to find something tin. I need to end this marriage.
That was my number one motivation.
Right.
Even years prior, I'm like, oh, the tin is coming up in a couple of years.
Right.
I got to find a way out because tin is hard to come by. Collectors love tin,
Yeah.
and fans of Rin Tin
especially
Tin,
tin collectors.
especially
Yeah.
the people.
They're the ones that make it harder
collectors that
for
are-
all the other people.
I know, just general collectors. The tin collectors hog up all the good tin,
Mm-hmm.
and they leave the bad tin, which some would say there's no such thing.
And others wouldn't.
Plenty of others argue against that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
weird
don't
how
know.
there's a lot of subjects that are real, 50-50 like that, where some
Yeah,
people care and some people don't. I'd say
it's not-
most.
Most are that way. I think
Yeah.
there are some subjects where there are very few that care, and
Mm-hmm.
way more people don't care.
Yeah.
But we don't care about those subjects
Like
here.
global warming.
Like climate change.
Climate
Call it by
change.
its current
Sorry.
name, its moniker. Because we need to convey this correctly to all of the people that aren't
Oh,
going
I
to care
suppose
about
that's the same as that's almost like me saying, Obamacare, which is not what it really was called. So
it. Right. Some would call it a failure or a disaster.
well, I mean, it wasn't really given much of a chance.
No, it wasn't.
Anyways, not to get political. We don't do that here.
We don't do that here. Are you were you ever a watcher of Pawn Stars?
I've seen enough of it to probably, I'm familiar enough with it. It's all,
It's all the same.
it's all
right?
the same as every other fucking reality TV that it's
Sure.
like you're supposed to believe that these people are just coming in off the streets with that they don't know that these people are going to be showing up, but yet he
Right.
has a fucking expert that can come in on a whim every fucking time.
Yep. And not only that, someone just brings up some random item, and whoever's at the counter just happens to have a whole shit ton of knowledge about that particular item that they're just
Mhm.
going to dump on the person.
Even the people that are typically very stupid on that show, all of a sudden he's just happens to be the guy that time that's like, oh, I know all about this fucking weird specific coin or whatever the fuck.
Oh, I know. The coins. The reason I bring it up is sometimes I just throw in some show that I feel like just kind of playing in the background. For a while, it was MythBusters, and then
always
right
a good
now,
choice.
Yep. Well, that was my first time really actually watching that show.
It's a great show.
I had seen plenty of it. I've seen so much of it now that I enjoyed it a lot. But anyway, so then I was like, let me throw on Pawn. It's on Hulu. That's where I was watching it. And I know it originally aired on the History Channel, and I know that there are rules about language on the History Channel, and I'm trying to find evidence of that being a different case on Hulu, but I'm not particularly sure. So I don't know if what I saw or heard was a mistake on a certain episode of Pawn Stars, or if it was just because it's on Hulu, it's okay now. But there were a couple F-bombs dropped on Pawn Stars that were not bleeped. And it's one of those things where I heard it and I didn't even really pay attention to it. And then like a minute later, I had to think for a second. I'm like, wait a second. Because that's not a show where there's tons of cursing that they have to bleep out to begin with. So it's not like there's constant.
And it's a kind of show where it is so like the content is very curated. So it's like they could just be like, oh, let's reshoot that if somebody dropped an F-bomb, you know?
And this was some afterward closing scene that was not involving someone bringing an item in or anything like that. This was sort of
just
that
like filler crap at the end.
It was filler crap, so they could have easily redone this whole thing. But one of the characters, I forget if it was Chum Lee or the main Rick guy.
I think it's funny. It's just one of the characters. It's just, it's a very fitting description, but yes, it's funny in a reality show situation.
They had someone brought in these gigantic like display Alvin and the Chipmunks. For one of the more recent movies they're CG and they look sort of realistic but cartoony still. They bought all three of them, and Chumley thought it'd be funny because Rick was like, "Just put these somewhere." So Chumley put them in Corey, Rick's son, Corey's office for Corey to discover that they're in there. And so they've got a camera point in his office waiting for him to come in and a camera following him to his office because this isn't set up ahead of time. But all of a sudden Corey opens the door and he kind of sees the dark figures in his office and you just hear, "What the fuck?" And then he turns the light on and he's like, "Fuck." He says it right away again. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, I rewound it a few times. I even like recorded it on my phone.
Nice.
I don't know if I was planning on, I can show people, but, show
people just randomly. Have you seen this?
Yeah. Have you seen Pawn Stars? Oh. But no, so I watched I watched a couple episodes after that and I have not come across a time where they had to bleep that or any bleeping of any kind. So it's been hard for me to verify if Hulu just has different rules and they were able to do Pawn Stars uncensored, or
Pawn
if
Stars After Dark.
Yeah, when the pawn shop is closed, there's no customers.
Where we change one letter of our name.
It'd be 2.
Correct. We add one letter and we become Prawn Stars.
We're the Pound Stars. So that's what I experienced.
So that was
recently.
Your week.
Yeah.
That's what I've been up to this week.
No, I went to just a heads up, just to throw it out there at the very beginning. I have no painting, so don't even ask. I don't have a painting this week. I can't take on more stupid work that I have to do for things that get me nothing.
I am I just don't care.
I'm also not like
it doesn't affect me in any way.
I'm not inspired either. I sit there and I'm like, every time I've tried to sit there, I'm like, what do I even want to try to paint? I can't even like think of anything. And my attention span, I might have some sort of attention deficit disorder that is undiagnosed.
Fucking hop in the boat, buddy. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room. There's not. Everybody has it.
I mean, maybe everybody does, and maybe that means that no one does.
Ooh.
But
so your thing said every paint every week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paint
How about
once a
how
week. Start
about we-
painting once a week or something like
How
that.
about we just say, let's take away the once a week thing. What if it was like once a month?
What if it was, well,
Or
I mean,
you're like, what if it was, I'm just not going to do it.
Never again. I already deleted the app. No, I didn't do that. But
I already forgot how to paint.
I kind of like the once a month thing, but I did think maybe keep it up as once a week, but not necessarily make it that I have to finish a painting. It's like I can have one that I'm working on, and I just have to work on it once a week.
I think that would be cool if you were like, let's
Then
try
done,
to do one once a month, but you have the entire month to do it, and you could show your progress if you care to, or you could just be like, I'm going to work really, really, really hard on one painting for a year.
Sure.
I don't know. Well,
I mean, it's something. I just cannot keep up with the current demand.
No, and it's fine.
Bestowed upon me by an AI-powered random New Year's resolution generator.
Did I expect you to actually fucking do it?
I mean, you kind of seemed like you did.
No, I just like to fuck with you about like giving you shit about not bringing one each week, but like, I don't know. How many times does anybody ever stick with their fucking resolutions? That's why I stopped making them, because it's like, if you don't make one, you can't fail.
Yeah, if you set the expectations so that no one expects anything of you, you can't disappoint anyone, and that
that's how I've been living the last couple of years. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
But no, I maybe just do that. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to work on one for the year, or I'm going to get one done a month. Just be like, I'm going to work on one a little bit
until
here and there.
I feel like it's done.
And then once it's done, then we'll show it. If you care to show progress as you go, cool. If you don't, you can just be like, I did or didn't work on it this week.
To be really honest, I don't really know that I even like the idea of painting on a computer program with a mouse. I would actually probably rather have canvas and paints and a paintbrush.
I think unless you're kind of a person who is an artist, and then you get to that point where you're going to do digital medium, I think starting in digital medium is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I don't think, like, it doesn't, especially, well, and I think a lot of people who do digital medium art, as far as, like, painting and stuff like that, they probably have, like, an actual, like, pad, like, specific drawing pads that are digital drawing pads and stuff. It's like, you're not going to have that. Trying to do art with a mouse is kind of ridiculous unless you have a specific type of digital art you're doing that's more like, that's more like, I'm going to take images and do things with them, or like, I'm going to do like Photoshop art.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good Photoshop artists out there. That's a lot of keyboard mouse shit.
Yeah. And some of them I was just using the trackpad. I wasn't even using a mouse, which is less
to me,
precise,
I don't know if that's
and things.
Easier. Or...
I don't think it's easier, but
yeah.
but I don't think I'm going to in any time soon go out and purchase painting supplies. So, we'll see.
You could even start with, like, maybe you start with, you're not going to do the painting quite yet, but maybe you could sketch up an idea of what you might want to paint, or something. You could start in that aspect of just like, let me jot it down on some paper first, figure out what I want. You can kind of, get your composition down and everything. And
sure.
I don't know. I always found painting really hard because I'm not really good with, like, I don't know, like, color stuff very well, of like, because there's a lot of stuff you can do with colors to make things pop differently and shade differently. And like, this color accents that color really well to represent light this way or that way. And so like color theory. Yeah. That's the word I was trying, the phrase I was trying to come up with. I am horseshit at color theory.
I'm probably not good at that either.
I also dropped out of fucking art college, so
that's right.
I never really got through color theory.
You could be the one who is painting once a week.
Well, yeah, if I would have finished college, I would have, I'd be doing fucking art for a living. So
that's only if you got a job in that field.
True, but I would have also...
I finished college and do not work in the field I went to college for, so...
That is very true for a lot of people, but I would at least have the skills from college to be able to do...
Of course, that's...
that kind of stuff, but...
Anyone can say that about any college program
like,
if they would have finished.
Do you remember, like, if you went to try to get in the field that you went to college for, do you think you could be able to jump right back into it?
No, because... I mean, obviously...
Well, besides that, everything's fucking advanced since then, too. That's
what it is it's so much different than it was. For part of it, I was editing on an Avid machine, which I don't know if they're even used anymore. And, we used cameras that had these certain tapes in them that you had to put into digitize and stuff. And I don't even know if... I think everything is shot on something that might go straight to some sort of SD card now.
Oh, yeah, so, I'm sure everything's digitally shot now. Nothing.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's some things that I would still understand how to do in that regard. Like, it's not like footage on an SD card would baffle me. I would know how to do that and load that into a computer and stuff. But, I mean...
I'm sure pretty much all editing now is just done through, like, Adobe Premiere and shit now or whatever. Like, whatever the big best... editing program is. They're not using fucking big old boards and shit anymore. It's all just...
No. And I didn't use big boards then either. It was just a keyboard, but there was for the Avid computers specifically, there was a very special keyboard that came with those that had certain keyboard shortcuts. There's like one button there's like a cut button and a splice button and things like that you're not going to find on a traditional computer keyboard. And, I mean, just basic stuff like knowing how to white balance and frame. I mean, I don't even know if you have to white balance anymore with modern cameras if they just kind of do it on their own. But, I mean, at the shopping channel, again, this was almost 10 years ago that I started working in that area. They were still white balancing the cameras, but again, the cameras were very old and like old school, like TV cameras.
Right.
So
yeah. Those big boys on the dollies,
the big ones that roll around. You have to, it's got like a pallet jack type of a handle. You have to pull them from one studio to another and reposition them and stuff like that. Some of them were on like very lightweight. Some of them were very small cameras that were more lightweight and on sort of just more of like a rolling tripod that you could just push easily. But I know a lot of them were those huge suckers that you had to lean into it.
Did you try to move positions in that company after you got your degree? Where you're like, hey, I got this degree. Like I could work in these other things now.
I did.
And they were just like, fuck that. Or it was a job that it's like, unless somebody leaves,
well,
there's no positions.
Kind of, but there were also people that left, and you would see some people go from part-time to full-time, and that would open up a part-time spot or things like that. But there were plenty of people that came and left. I applied for a couple different positions. One was just a floor director, and that is someone who would move cameras from studio to studio, set them up in the right spots, make sure they're white balanced, make sure that they're on, and, because you had to unhook the cables from one studio, roll the cameras to the next studio, and hook up the proper cables that were curled up in that studio, recoil up the old cables in the studio you were just in. But then sometimes you're running the jib camera, and you're queuing people to whatever camera you are on or going to. But then sometimes you get cycled into working in the control room where you're either putting graphics up on the screen when they're called for, or you're running some of the cameras. A lot of the cameras in the studio, basically all of them except the jib camera and the handhelds, were run robotically in the control room. So you're sitting there, joysticks, zooming in and out and moving the camera position or what it's pointing at that way. So you would have to do all of those things. Or you're sitting in the back, not putting up the live graphics, but loading in the graphics that are going to be for upcoming shows. They called that building the future graphics. So yeah, that was that position. I applied for that. That was kind of one of those where at the time, there were no positions open. So it was just kind of like me trying to find out, how do I get into that? How do I even be considered for doing that? The other one was one called Studio X, and that's in another building, but that's where they did a lot of product shots for the website and just still shots that would be put on the air for the products, not stuff like little jewelry and watches and things like that. That was done in a room called pre-shoot. But so what I think was going on was I started there working third shift full time, and that's probably the hardest shift to hire for. And so I think that they just didn't want to let me go anywhere because they had someone doing full time third shift. And even when a position would open up on first or second shift, they would offer it to someone that's part-time already on first or second shift and not offer it to someone that's full-time third shift.
Right.
So the only reason I got second shift and then eventually years later first shift was because I had to fight for it and basically complain that this isn't fair, that you're not offering this to these people. Because I only did third shift for a year, thankfully. I was on second shift for about like 4 years or 3-something years. And then they
it was finally a much different time in our lives than we're working second shift.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, the funny thing is, when I applied for the position in Studio X, it would have been under this guy named Eric, who was his title was videographer. And so typically, I think how it works when you apply for a job is you give your interest, you fill out the sheet or the form or whatever it is, and you give that to your current manager, and that person will pass along to the manager of the other department. Mm-hmm. And then they will interview, and then that manager would then make a determination on who they want to hire for that spot. Apparently, it was my manager and the person she reports to who decided for themselves that I don't have the experience required to be considered for that position over there. So as far as I know, it never left her desk and made it into the hands of the person that would have been hiring for it.
Lovely.
Yeah. This is also the place where, sometimes if it's super busy and there's a lot of work to do with setting up other shows, sometimes you don't necessarily take your lunch. Sometimes you don't necessarily take any breaks at all. And sometimes you're doing your whole shift just without a break. And
nope.
If you're fine with that, they like when people are fine with that.
Of course they do.
But, there was a point where I went into HR and I'm like, hey, we're supposed to get 2 15-minute breaks and a half an hour lunch. And sometimes we don't even get that. We don't even get a 15-minute break. And what HR said in response to that was, oh, well, I'll have to check with that department and see what their needs are.
No.
So that
That's
HR
not
department
how that works.
Basically didn't even back me up and in any way to sort of enforce allowing their employees to get
matter when it's by law. You get those breaks.
Trust me.
That HR department can go fuck itself.
They can, and it was not long after that one day, it only happened once, but my supervisor just goes, Tattoo, go on your 15. So word must have got down to them somehow that I was complaining about this, but that only happened one time. It wasn't like every day after that, everyone got their breaks and lunches.
Right.
But the thing is, as far as I could tell, I felt like I was rocking the boat because as far as I could tell, nobody even cared. No one complained about not having a break or lunch. They just did the job and they were okay with it.
Right.
So,
I would be fine if it happened every once in a while of just like, oh, it was a busy day. I just didn't get any breaks. I was just working through it, blah, 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 whatever. Because I've had jobs where I've done that, where I've just like not taken breaks. I've just worked through the day.
Yeah.
But that should be the outlier, not the other way around.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't every day.
Yeah.
But it was definitely often enough where it got to be where I feel like I have to say something about this. So that was irritating. Another funny thing that happened was at that. So that place it's not anymore, I don't think. I think they're actually not even doing broadcast shows anymore. It's like all web sales now.
Yeah, it's got to be at this point.
So, but it was 24 hours live. And so the production department where they actually broadcast the actual show from was where people are working 24 hours. There's first shift, second shift, and third shift. It never stops, right? And then there was always free coffee. Makes sense.
Yeah.
There's also free coffee in like the offices where people work just during the day, and then they do their 9 to 5 and go home. Well, at one point, there was a cost-cutting measure to remove the free coffee from just the production department. So just the 24-hour running people up from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., they don't get coffee anymore. But the folks in the cubicles still get their coffee.
It doesn't cost them as much to give people free coffee for 8 hours a day than it does to give them free coffee for 24 hours a day. So
I'm sure that was their justification, yeah. But, you know, the problem is they also really cared about keeping their hosts happy, of course. And guess who drinks a lot of coffee, especially in the overnight hours, and really liked that free coffee? The hosts. So that didn't last long, and I'm pretty sure it's probably because a bunch of hosts complained.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. So that was...
It had to be rough to be the overnight hosts or the third shift hosts. Did they rotate?
They did.
Okay, so they got to rotate, but not the other employees.
There were some that, there were some that seemed like they were kind of locked in on the overnight shows. Part of it was when I first came over there, something like watches. I think they kind of figured that the people that are really into watches are only watching during certain hours of the day. And so those were pretty much only at night. And then only when there was, they had this one item that they would have every day called the Today's Top Value, which is a super sale item that they would air all day long. So the only time you saw watch shows during the day, like the morning hours and stuff and afternoon, was when the Today's Top Value was a watch. And they would have watch shows running all day. Otherwise, they were pretty much all overnights. So when I did that year of third shift, we had a lot of watch shows that we did.
Is that when you got really into watches?
It is.
Because you had a lot of watches for a while.
I did have a lot of watches for a while. I had a couple of them before I went over there.
Yeah.
But being there and all the people around you, we're all looking at them. We're all into them. We're all saying, oh, this one would be cool. Oh, this one would be cool. Oh, look at mine. They're, like, people just are all getting watches.
Yeah.
And, I think I'm sure it was to fill some sort of a void that I wasn't seeing anybody anymore. I wasn't seeing my friends anymore because I was working overnight. So I'm sure it was filling some sort of a void.
Like, I don't need friends. I have watches.
Yeah.
Now I can really tell all the time that I'm not hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, I can be very accurate in how much
Look
time
at
I'm
all
not
this
spending.
time. I just risked just a whole armful of watches.
Yeah, so I had, I think the max was I was at 17 watches.
That's insane.
And
you would actually rotate them out. You'd wear them all the time.
Oh yeah.
That's better than some people have like a shit ton of something and they just don't.
No, I rotated them out all the time. There were some I liked more than others, but then there were a couple of days I wore a watch on each wrist. I wore 2 watches
because you're just so kooky.
Like, I was all like this other guy, dude. This other guy, Jeff, and I were kind of the 2 watch guys of the Especially when I went to second shift, we were both on second shift, and we were the watch guys. This is another thing that really irked me when I worked there. There was
it's like a therapy session.
Well, there was a period, the main sort of the biggest brand of watches that came through was called Invicta. And you can find them in Costco and like TJ Maxx, you can find Invicta watches and stuff, but they were the brand, they just came through a lot. They sold a lot of watches on there. There were some more high-end brands on the show, but Invicta was there a lot, and they sold a lot of volume. I guess they were they ripped off one of their biggest sellers was basically it was a Rolex ripoff. It was called the Pro Diver, and it was a Rolex, just not an actual Rolex. But they got to a point where they were doing, I think it was monthly, where they would do because their headquarters are in Florida, and they would do the shows in Florida.
Okay.
And so there was a certain selected, assembled team of employees that got to be the ones that went every month to work the shows in Florida. And Jeff was the full-time visual that was selected. And then our boss, Amy, who was the one who didn't pass along my application for Studio X. I don't think she liked me very much for some reason, but she asked him, "Hey, we're planning on having 2 visuals go to these. So who would you want to be the visual that goes with you?" And he said me, because we both, we got along really well, and we were both super into watches, and so we both know enough about them to know what to do with them, how to set them. If there's something wrong, we can point it out. We know what to do with watches. That never got to my ear until he told me, but they picked some part-time visual that was kind of new. And so eventually I was like, hey, I heard that I was kind of, the what Jeff wanted. I said something like, hey, I was hoping I would be the other visual to go on these trips. I remember Sarah thinking like, well, maybe it's because you're married and have a kid, and so it's probably more of a hassle for you to go out of state every month for this, when Jeff he wasn't married and didn't have any kids, and then the visual that went with him didn't have any, wasn't. Anyway.
Yeah, but they should let you make that choice.
Right. So the reason I got was that they weren't going to have 2 full-timers go. So that's why they chose 1 full-timer and
then
1
they
part-timer.
shouldn't have even asked him, who would you want to go?
I know.
Why even say, who would you want to go?
I know.
Or put the caveat of, which of the part-timers would you like to go with you?
Or which of we're considering these few people, which one would you, anyway. They just flat out gave who would you want to go with you? And didn't present any limitations.
And they're like, but besides Sean, who would you like?
Yeah, anyone but Sean. Anyone but him. So eventually that visual got hired on full time. And so I said, oh, she must not be able to go on the remotes anymore then. There must be some other visual that they're going to have to replace her with, because I was told that it can't be 2 full-time visuals. But lo and behold, no, that visual kept being the one that went, even though it was now 2 full-time visuals. So there were a lot of things that were so shady with that place that it started to outweigh just the coolness factor of the job.
Right.
And being that I came from a somewhat lower management position from customer service before I came over to be in the production department, my pay carried over. So I know that I was making more than the other people in my department, even the ones that had been there for years before I came over.
Right.
But even that, I wasn't getting paid a whole lot. And so I knew that everybody else was getting paid less. But with the whole reason I brought it up was that it wasn't even paying super great. That's why I went to where I am now, because the hours were Monday through Friday mornings, and the pay was a lot better than what that was. There's just a lot of things that were going I put up with this stuff for a while and kind of overlooked it long enough.
Right.
It's just I just clearly am not destined to go anywhere here but be this position. Right. So I think it's time for me
if you have to fight, if you have to fight that hard at a job and they keep kind of not giving a shit, it just it gets to the point where you're just like, this is not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not there's a difference of this is my dream job. I'm going to put up with some bullshit to continue on with my dream job because there's enough good things that happen that the bullshit kind of worth it. But if it's not your dream job and you're just constantly putting up with bullshit, just cut the fucking cord and move on.
The funny thing is when I was in customer service, at one point we got to go and tour the studio. Mm-hmm. This was obviously before I went there, but I remember because I was in college for video production. I'm like, oh, this will be cool. And that was also what I thought when I was applying for a position there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like walking through one of the studios, and it was during a live show, and I saw what later I would learn to be a visual product coordinator, which is what I was.
Mm-hmm.
Laying necklaces down on a necklace display, and like polishing a ring off so there's no fingerprints on the stone and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's not a real TV job. I just like, that's, I kind of laughed it off, like, and that's what I ended up doing.
Right.
But when I got there, of course, I'm like, oh, this will get me a foot in the door.
Yep.
Maybe someday I'll work up to being a director, or, I had all these ambitions or aspirations, and found out pretty quickly that they will move along who they like and keep who they don't really care for as much where they are at.
It's definitely the type of job where kissing ass gets you far.
Yeah, and I've just never been good at that.
I am not an ass kisser by any means.
I'm terrible at that, and I'm also terrible at like promoting or selling myself.
Yeah.
My thought is always like, yeah, I know I could do this job, just hire me and I'll do it. I know I can.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I gotta do the song and dance.
Yeah, I think I've gotten better at selling myself, because it sucks, because lots of times trying to sell yourself sounds very conceited, or like, I'm obviously really good at this job, like I should take it. But it's like, it's that fine line of being conceited versus being confident when you're interviewing for a job. So that's why I always try, like, I haven't had an interview for a job for a long time, thank God. But
me either.
I always just try to back it up with like, I just try to back everything up with facts, and like, I've been doing this for this long. This is what I learned. I took classes in this to be able to do this and this and this. Like, the job I'm at now, like, there's so much stuff I don't do at this job that I've done in past jobs, but I just made sure I said all of that shit. Like, I've done this, you just load it up with like, because obviously I have a shit ton of fucking warehouse experience. I've been working warehouses for fucking ever now.
Well, and if
not a career I thought I'd ever get into, but
and even if the position you're applying for or interviewing for would not require those skills, they're still going to like that, because it's like, oh, hey, you know what? If we're in a pinch and we need his help with over here or over here or over here, he'll probably know what to do, and we won't need to train him, and he'll just be an overall that much more of an asset.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I get it.
That's me. I am very ass set guy.
Your ass is set.
Yep. Right here.
Yeah. I don't know. I forgot how we got onto this topic of me working at that channel.
I don't know. We were talking about painting, and then digital stuff, and then
we talked about
degrees.
You were asking me if I would still be able to
it's somehow
do what I went to school for, and if I ever tried to do anything else at that place related to what I went to school for.
Somehow
the short answer is yes. Yeah. And the long answer is what you heard already. I'm sure there's a longer version, but I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
I went to not because I like sushi, because I don't, but my son likes sushi. So there's this place in the Mall of America called the Kura Revolving Sushi Bar or something like that. And I'm not sure if you've been in something similar.
A revolving restaurant? No.
Well, it's not like a revolving restaurant like you might think, where it's spinning and your view is changing. What it means is you're sitting at your table and there's this conveyor belt that runs around all the tables. So, and just
I thought you were gonna say the restaurant is stationary and the whole mall rotates around it.
Yeah, they engineered the entire Mall of America to spin around this, and the restaurant is even in the center of the mall.
Right, that's what's crazy about it. They had to clear so much ground space for this thing to oscillate.
It's
off of it.
dangerous.
It's
dangerous.
It was the stupidest. It was billions of dollars.
There have been several decapitations because of this effort.
Millions of deaths.
And luckily they could just sweep it all under the mall.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you sit down, and it's similar to a buffet where instead of all the food being laid out in these trays that you go up and fill your plate with.
Mm-hmm.
These plates just constantly roll by you.
Yeah, and you just grab what you want.
Yeah, there'll be a little stand that says what's next, like, tuna with Japanese mayo. And so then the next few plates are of that type of sushi. And then there'll be another marker that says the next thing. And then they'll all roll by. And you just get charged per plate. Each plate has like 1 or 2 pieces of sushi on it. So it's not a lot of food, but it's $4 a plate. So if you're really hungry, it can add up. But they're all covered. Each plate is covered in this little dome thing just to keep germs out and stuff. But if you want to take one, you just sort of grab the edge of the plate and kind of lift up a little bit, and the dome pops up, and then you just take the plate and put it on your table. And then when you're done eating, there's this little sort of slide thing. You slide the plate down, and it goes into this receptacle. And that's how they keep track of how many plates you've eaten.
So just don't turn in your plates.
I mean, I didn't think of that.
Just steal your plates.
Leave a stack of plates on the table, even.
Just put them in a bag.
So,
like, go to Macy's before you go to the sushi place and just put all your plates in the bag and then walk out.
Well, I would rather just try leaving all the plates on the table because you're trying to steal food this way, but now you're also potentially stealing plates.
Yeah, but if you leave the plates there, then they're going to be like, oh, this person skipped out on their tab.
Well, here's the thing. You pay at the little touchscreen. You don't pay, you don't give a server your card and they walk off and bring it back and you sign something. So the server will not come to you to your table until after you're gone.
Yeah, but they would still be like, oh, clearly they stole because there's all these plates.
Yeah, so
if you take the plates with you, they'll be like, okay, they paid for the 2 plates they put in the thing. You put a couple plates in there. You still have to pay a little bit.
Okay. I don't know if that will work out.
Well, either way, we've derailed your story. Go ahead.
But anyway, so there are also hot food items if you don't want to have sushi.
Right.
And you can order those on the little touch screen. And so above the constantly rotating belt is another belt. And eventually, I ordered these 2 things of these little appetizers of little fried chicken things with some sort of cream dipping sauce. Pretty tasty.
Karagi?
Maybe? I don't remember. I don't remember the name of it, but
chicken karagi.
It was good.
Yeah, it's good.
And so eventually on the screen, it says, oh, your chicken is on it, or your whatever. It might say, I forget if it said your food is on its way or if it said what you ordered, but it said it's on its way. And all of a sudden, the 2 little plates pulled up on the belt above, and I just take them off. And I can't remember when we got there if we initially ordered our drinks on the touchscreen or if we ordered those from an actual server, like a human being.
Okay.
But someone did talk to us when we first sat down to kind of explain how the place works.
Right.
So either they took our drink order or we took the drink order on the touchscreen. One of the two. Either way, it doesn't matter. But what happens is with a drink order is there's a little robot that will wheel up to your table. It's got a little smiley face on the screen that's on the front of it, and then it turns around, and on the back of it is a platform with a tray on it, and your 2 drink cups and 2 straws, and you just take them, and then the robot wheels away.
I've seen some videos of those drink serving robots failing and just like throwing drinks everywhere.
Well, I mean that didn't happen to us, but
yeah.
So human interaction was basically when we first sat down and they explained to us how the restaurant works.
Do you know for 100% like it was a human?
I didn't think to look closely for any
Did you
loose
check
wires
the genitalia?
Or seams.
That's the tell. That's the biggest tell. If it's a robot, it won't have any genitalia. If it's just not a human but something else, it'll just have different genitalia. It might be located in a different spot or look very different.
I didn't check.
Like if it was an alligator, you'd have to stick your finger in there to see if it had a penis.
Sure.
Was it an alligator?
Since this was a new experience for me, I didn't understand at the time when the server offered to show me their genitalia
right,
to verify what they were. So I didn't think of that, or I wasn't familiar with that to know it was a regular thing. So I
You
just
thought it was a type of sushi. It's a type of sushi.
What's a grabhiri? So, but the oddest part was, if you want refills, you would think that with this whole system they have worked out, that you would tap on the screen that you want a refill, and then that robot would show up with more cups.
Right.
But when you want a refill, then it says, please wait for your server. And then your server comes and says, oh, would you like a refill? And then they take the cup and bring back a full cup.
Yeah.
I don't know why
Seems like there's a step there that's... It's like they haven't programmed the robot to go to a table more than one time.
I guess, but you would... So do you think that it only goes to each table once in the entire day?
No, just per guest.
Per guest.
Yeah.
I guess, or maybe that's...
I don't know.
Maybe
Seems
that's
stupid.
the way they can justify slapping a gratuity in the bill. I don't know.
Maybe.
Because the server technically brought us a refill of a drink. Certainly tip deserving, in my opinion. But I don't know.
that sarcastic? I don't know.
Certainly.
Was that?
None of it is.
I have
All
no
of it
idea
is.
what is and
We
isn't
are is.
sarcastic in this moment.
None of us.
I think we should just
None
adopt,
of us have ADD. All of us have ADD.
I think we should just adopt what most
We
other
talked about
countries
this.
do and just get rid of tipping.
we
But
talked about this.
it'll never happen.
I know. We talked about it.
Did we? I don't know.
Yeah.
You remember that of what we've talked about. I remember most other things we've talked about.
Again, yeah, I know. No, but the
The
point
tipping
that-
thing just really stuck with you. You're just like, fucking, yeah.
Well, no,
tipping.
because my point was, because your thought was that it would cause the employers to then have to pay their employees more in the service industry.
And then prices for everything would go way up.
Yeah.
So everything
So
would end up costing way more anyway.
Yeah. So it would be, it's one of those things where the idea sounds great.
Yeah.
But, just something similar to, I don't know, tariffs,
I think the only thing that living in a tipping society does, besides giving a server, I guess, more incentive to be a good server, is it gives the guest an opportunity to, not tip somebody well if they've done a shitty job.
Sure. There's a little bit of power in the customer's hands.
Yeah. But the other thing that sucks is that also a lot of people tip very shittily to very good servers as well. So
yeah, and
it's a shit situation either way.
If someone's going to be, if you're going to be someone that doesn't tip ever, you're probably also someone that's going to complain about something with your order and then just get price knocked off of the meal anyway. So you're even screwing the place out of that much more money.
Yeah, people suck in general. Even when I get shitty service, I still try to tip at least decently. But
my tipping has kind of, for the most part, 20%. Unless
I usually
feel like
stick
I should do
to
more.
20 to 25% roughly. If somebody does a really good job, I'll bump it up a lot more. Usually, if I've gone places, so when Iman was working in the industry, we would go places and we'd get crazy discounts on, especially places within that network. Yeah. So those when that would happen, I would always make sure because they would show you here's everything. This is what the total would have been. Here's what the total is now. I always look at okay, well, I'm going to tip based on the original total for one, because that's the service I got. Even though I got a discount, I'm tipping on that. And if it comes out to less than what I got discounted off, I just pay the original total. So then they get the tip of the difference usually. So we've had $300 meals where we've gotten half off. And so I give $100 and something tip on it, because it's well, I was going to spend this much, so I might as well give the server that much. And, if somebody's going to give you that kind of a great service, give them a fucking good tip, because they would, because we don't ask for shit. They would give us, so we would get free stuff. They would, we'd order certain things, and then they'd be and this is from the kitchen, and they would just bring out other plates of stuff that we didn't order. And they're like, we wanted you to try this and this and this and this. And all of that stuff was just off. Like, they wouldn't even put that on the bill. Or it would be on the bill,
on
but
the
it would show
house.
it. Yeah.
Oh,
it would,
zero.
It would just show, zero quantity or zero money. And then at the end of that, they would also discount the bill of what we fucking actually ordered.
Yeah.
So it's just like, or like a bunch of free drinks and all sorts of crazy shit. So it was just like, you're doing all of that just because, like, just for no reason, just to be cool. So fucking have my money. Like, that's the kind of shit I love is and that
that's
kind
only
of stuff.
because,
and that's where you should tip the fuck out of people.
And that's only because of what Iman was doing at the time, right? Like, that's not, they're not doing that for every guest.
Like, oh yeah. I mean, she still will get deals like that, even though she's not in that anymore. She just knows enough people within the industry that we can go places, or she can go places and just get crazy discounts on stuff without asking.
Cool, I guess. Sounds
it's a pretty
fun.
cool little weird perk.
Yeah.
The funnest part was going to friends and family nights of restaurants that were just opening. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so the restaurant was not open to the public yet, and we'd get to go there for a friends and family night where you just order whatever the fuck you want, fully free.
Wow.
It was awesome. We got to do that for a couple places. It was super cool.
You never invited me.
Well, you were not here.
How much notice would you have had? I could have driven over.
Yeah, but it's not like a, hey, bring everybody you want. It's like
but
you get to like invite a person.
Me.
Well, then then I get fucked out of it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't mind if it was.
Yeah, I don't know how many people. I don't know how many people you can bring.
Friends and family night.
I don't know how many people you can bring. I don't know if it's a friend or family member. I don't know if it's one or one. So it's just called friends and family.
Well, Iman probably knows.
I don't know, but I don't know if we'll ever get to be in one of those again.
Let me ask you this: was it always just you and her, or was it?
Yes.
Did she ever bring a third person?
No, it was always just the two of us.
Dang. Yeah, I don't know what else to talk about. I had another semi-weird futuristic purchase experience at a holiday gas station.
A weird futuristic purchase experience at a holiday gas station?
Yeah, they have these. The one I went to anyway, which is in like Burnsville. They have these two stations, kind of just before you go to the traditional registers that are operated by workers, but. I thought they were self-checkouts at first, and they're kind of like that, but they're not quite the same. So I had a banana. I had a donut.
Just a single banana?
A single banana. Because they that's how they have them there. They're just loose in a basket.
Just a loose banana.
Peeled already. No.
Yeah.
And I had one of those. They have single-serving, like, Godfather's pizzas.
Okay.
So you can either get sausage or pepperoni or a breakfast pizza. And I had two donuts. One was a little old-fashioned, and one was like just a glazed. It wasn't like a twisty one, but it was sort of like a figure eight looking.
Okay.
Anyway,
excellent choices.
Right.
As far as donuts.
This is the reason. The only reason I'm pointing out what I got is just to explain how this worked. So there's just this area that you set your items in.
I'm familiar with this. Yeah, they have them at Circle K's here.
That's why, because the
Circle K is the same
inside
as
holidays.
Holiday. Yep.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know what this is, and I'm sure in other parts of the country there are much more advanced versions of this. So they're probably like, you dopes, you hicks with your back in time living lifestyle.
They're like, we're beyond those. Those were like 10 years ago. We're doing something different now.
We absorb our food through the air now.
Yeah.
No,
we just walk through the door and it takes the money out. Like, it reads what you have on you and it just deducts the money automatically.
Oh, not all of it. No, so it just scans using some sort of image recognition.
Yep.
What is sitting on the platform. And so it just asked me, do you have a pepperoni, sausage, or breakfast pizza? And I'm like, sausage. And then it's like, do you have a small hold donut and one large non-hold donut? I'm like, yes, one of each. And then it just put in my total.
Do you have a child?
Not
anymore, unless you give us your money.
Right.
It starts giving demands.
So I just wonder,
do you have low self-esteem? You're like, oh, I do.
I just wonder when someone's gonna, put their penis on that thing and see what it says. Small.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something that was like insulting.
Did you buy a single jelly bean?
Looks like someone is going to snap into a Slim Jim tonight. That's what it says on the screen for some reason.
Yeah,
it's like, this thing's very personable.
Wow. I hope you are a grower.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't see a ring on that finger.
You have HPV.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no.
Oh, no. Why are you charging me for that?
Oh, I accidentally put my penis on the medical scanner at the holiday station.
At Circle K.
Yeah. They had those here. Circle K's have been popping up around here quite a bit. They're all standalones, though. They're not like connected to gas stations at all.
They're just a convenience store.
Yeah, we have those in 7-Elevens kind of just
like a Super USA here. You'll find them every now and then. It's just a convenience store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, convenience store. I mean, you can't fucking throw a rock without hitting a convenience store of some type out here. But most of them are the little like shitty corner stores. But then we got the Circle K's and the 7-Elevens. I prefer the Circle K's over the 7-Elevens. And I found out recently why. And it's because they're the same as the Holiday stations. Because Holiday was my favorite gas station back home. Because they just had a better, like, between that and
the cleanliness and
Super Americas, which are now all speedways, which they always were speedways. They just had to have a different name for some reason. But yeah, I just like the convenience store part of Holiday stations better than speedways. I just always have. They're just, I think they are cleaner looking. They're just, I think the quality of stuff is better, especially like the hot food stuff or the stuff that you could heat up. I feel like theirs is much better than speedways. So then I would go to 7-Elevens here. I'm just kind of like, the 7-Elevens kind of suck. And then Circle K started popping up. So I'm like, oh, let me check out Circle K. I'm like, this is actually really nice. I'm going to go here when I need to only because they're fucking expensive.
Really?
So they're just convenience stores are just, everything's just jacked up.
See,
prices.
I'm not one. I can probably count. I'll be fair and say on two hands. It might even be one, but I'll just say two. The amount of times I've purchased hot food from a gas station convenience store like that. Like I've never been one to get like the hot dogs on the rollers or any of those chuck wagon or
I won't do that. Like I used to when I was still working in Archway, in the early mornings I would sometimes stop at the gas station and get like the little breakfast sandwiches that you just pop in the microwave for a couple of minutes.
Right.
But they would have those like preheated in their little thing. I would grab like those and stuff.
Would you get the ones already warm in the
because it was early in the morning. I didn't have time to fucking sit there and microwave something for 30 seconds. I needed to get going. So
I would
just grab the ones they had already had sitting in there that they just nuked up a couple minutes ago. And
I think I'm always like, my first instinct would be to go through like some sort of drive-through to get a breakfast sandwich instead of like a gas station.
I liked those ones. Those ones at the gas station to me were better than going through a fucking drive-through.
The ones at Circle K's and Holidays?
I think they were better to me for some reason than like stopping at a McDonald's and getting because I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like the ingredients were more real to me than when you go through fast food places. Everything's so processed.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
So
yeah,
they seemed better.
Maybe they are.
Who knows? Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're full of phosphates and
their pH balance is all off.
They're iodized and they have radiation in them. Who knows?
They're pasteurized. I should look up. I wonder if I could find it quick. I was over at the Gilbertsons' house a few weeks ago, and I took a picture of this bag of chips that they had there because of what was listed on it. Do I still have it? Question mark.
It's the one the chips that, what do they have in them? Like asafoetida or whatever that made you anal leakage.
What is that?
There was chips that had, I don't know if it was asafoetida or not, but it was some thing that they were cooked with or in, that one of the fucking side effects of it is anal leakage.
So when you said you meant it happened to two people.
It happened, yeah. Not
because I was combing through my memory, going
me.
like, when did I eat chips that made that happen?
Yeah, no, the royal you.
Okay. Oh, this is funny. This is proudly distributed by Circle K Stores Inc.
Oh.
www.circlek.com contains a bioengineered food ingredient.
Oh. Okay.
Needless to say, Josh and I got a kick out of that, and we're laughing a bit, and we're obviously throwing in other versions of that on the cuff, or off the cuff, I should say. But yeah, I like the term bioengineered food ingredient. And then we said something like contains food-like substance or something like that,
right.
Bag contains food-like item. May resemble food in taste. So
you can say that about a lot of stuff. I mean, you can say that about like a dog's chew toy steak, like may resemble food. Oh, sure.
Yeah, may resemble food.
I'm pretty sure those things literally have to say on them, do not ingest or do not eat.
Yeah, not real steak.
Not real steak.
Because some moron is going to eat one, swallow it, and then try to sue.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, I got to drink this coffee hot.
What? Which, I understand that now. I understand why people put ice in their coffee.
Yeah. Coffee's hot as fuck.
Yeah, but as a youngster watching that movie for the first time, going like, what a ridiculous request.
Yeah.
You want coffee because it's hot. Anyway.
Unless it's iced coffee.
I'm sure Mr. Kevin Smith was thinking the same thing.
I believe the whole it was all the joke on that whole McDonald's thing. Because I think that McDonald's thing happened before that. The McDonald's burn incident. I believe so. I don't remember exactly when.
I thought they were legit just going through stuff they've heard from customers that were like,
I'm sure it probably was
what
stuff.
A moron. What kind of dumb question was that?
I'm sure a lot of the jokes in that movie were things that actually happened.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like I think he talked about the egg thing, about the person trying to find the perfect carton of eggs was a real thing somebody came and did in that store.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Go through all the cartons and find the perfect eggs.
Yeah,
people are weird.
I think in that movie, like someone had heard of it and was explaining to them what they were doing, right?
Yeah, it might have been a flashback situation in the
movie. Because and then there were the milkmaids, which are the people that dig in the back to try to find some carton of milk that has some expiration date that's like months after any other one that's in the shelf. I
kind of do that to an extent.
I kind of do that too.
Yeah, I always try to find the thing. If I'm going to buy it, exactly.
I reach in the back and I'm like, let me get one that's going to last longer.
And I've been burned way too many times going to grocery stores and then just buying stuff without really paying attention, and then getting home and being like, this is already expired.
So have I.
Yeah, the grocery store by our old place was really bad for that. They had tons of stuff constantly that was expired. Their people were really bad at fucking stocking their shelves and going through their old stock. So I bought so much shit from there that ended up being expired. I was so pissed.
I've become pretty trained on checking. But
yeah, I have
occasionally you don't remember to do. And I was at a Super USA and I bought like a combo pack that was like cheese stick, meat stick type of a thing.
Right.
It's in a little cooler. And I opened it and I took a bite and I was like, something doesn't taste right with this. This seems off. And I looked at the package and it had been expired for, I think, 7 months.
Oh, wow.
So needless to say, I threw it in the garbage. I don't think I swallowed the bite I took. Not. But it's happened more than once where at Target, I've just picked up, some sort of like peanut butter M&Ms or some kind of something in one of the registers, a little stack of candy they have expired for a few months. And like the whole box is like that.
What, do you tell somebody or do you just leave it?
Well, no, I go, hey, this whole box is expired. And I looked in a few other aisles, and they're like that too. They're like, oh, thanks. They're supposed to be. They're always like, they should be checking these and recycling them out. I'm like, yeah, well, You didn't do any of this particular type of candy for some reason.
Yeah, with candy, I wouldn't like. Within reason, I wouldn't care if it was like,
right.
Oh, this is a week past its thing. I'd be like, it's gonna be fine.
No,
but if it's months, I'd be like, it's probably still okay, but I'm not gonna chance it.
Yeah, I think it's been like a month or two where I'm like, I was just like, this is bad, and then I have to tell someone. And one thing I put on my Secret Santa, we did Secret Santa at work this last December, and I put that I like big Kit Kat. And so my Secret Santa once got me a couple big Kit Kats, and they were both expired. And I guarantee you they just went over to the Target that's 2 minutes away and picked them up there. And so without knowing who it was, I was telling my coworker that sits right behind me, I'm like, yeah, I kind of said it because I've loud enough where I was kind of hoping anyone would hear, and they would. Right. And I was just like, yeah, this has burned me a lot. Plenty of times, but I'm trained to check because Target's notorious for this. I'm like, someone got me these Kit Kats, but they're both expired, so I got to throw them out. And lo and behold, the person who sits right next to me was my Secret Santa, and so thrown in the gift bag of another item they gave me was a fresh, like king size big Kit Kat that was like a double pack. I'm like, so
all right, they made up for it.
And the other thing that got me was the complete series DVD of the Back to the Future cartoon.
Okay.
Which I barely even remember that there was a Back to the Future cartoon.
I didn't even think I knew there was one.
But yeah, I have the complete series on DVD.
Oh.
Of Back to the Future, the cartoon.
Do you have a DVD player?
I still have a PS3.
There you go.
Which I can watch DVDs in.
Yeah, I think I can watch. I think I can watch DVDs on my PS4
as long as there's
it's got a
disc drive in it. Yeah,
I don't have any DVDs though.
Oh, I still have.
That's the only problem.
No, I still have my whole book of DVDs. I almost never touch it.
I got rid of all of my shit. I digitized all my movies.
Oh, and when Travis was all into that too,
it was a while after that. Because I wanted to get rid of I wanted to get rid of my DVD shelf and all the DVDs. So I'm like, well, let me just take every movie I have and I'm just going to rip them onto my computer.
Yeah.
And I did all of that. And then it's like, well, now everything's streaming. So I just don't really even need all of this. I still have them all on a hard drive. But
so, I don't know if you remember iPods, but,
of course I don't.
One rule they sort of built into iPods, if you remember, is that you can sync all your music that's on your computer onto your iPod. Mm-hmm. But if you bring it over to your friend's house and put it up to their computer, you can put all of their music on your iPod, but it'll take off all of your music.
Right.
Right? And that's something I never had to deal with because I always just had my own music from my own computer loaded onto my iPod.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I still have my old iPod Classic.
Nice.
And it's at my desk at work. And I decided, because I've been listening to all the old Tell 'em Steve Dave podcasts, and I'm like, I bet you I could just probably load all these onto my iPod. And like, let's say I don't want to I just don't want to stream it. Or, because, technically at work, I'm not supposed to use any kind of Bluetooth headphones or stream anything from my phone, but I can listen to something where there's wired headphones plugged in, and I'm not streaming it. If it's downloaded onto, there's no way they're checking, but that's still the actual rule. So I was like, oh, then I could just listen to all these on my iPod, and then, I can honestly say I'm not breaking the rule. So I took the iPod home yesterday, and I was trying to figure out, because there's no way because you used to go into iTunes and you would sync whatever you wanted to on your iPod from iTunes. Well, a few years back, they kind of did away with iTunes as the repository for movies and TV shows and music and podcasts and all whatever was in there. Mm-hmm. So they split it up into a TV app, a podcast app, and a music app. And so when you plug in something like an iPod, you just see it pop up not in iTunes but in the little file or the file explorer thing.
Okay.
Like on Windows, it's called the Windows Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
On Macs, it's called the Finder. So you would see your iPod pop up there. And nowhere in the podcast app is there any way that I could find to sync anything to the iPod. So I'm like, well, maybe it just can't anymore. And I was like, well, because I didn't even know if plugging my iPod in would even register. It would even like show up anymore, but it shows up. But when you open the music app, you can then click on iTunes Store.
Okay.
And you can click on like sync settings for your iPod if it sees it. And you can select things you would want to sync to your iPod. And it showed up like the podcast that I was listening to showed up. And I tried to hit all episodes and sync. I hit sync thinking it was going to put all those podcasts on there. But since I didn't have them actually downloaded, it wasn't syncing. It only synced. I guess I had one episode downloaded for some reason. So it synced that episode to my iPod. Now, this is still my music library.
Right.
But it's technically not the same computer. And I also don't have all that music that I had on my old computer actually physically downloaded and saved on the hard drive on this computer. Right. So all that music that was on my iPod is now gone.
Yep.
And it was replaced with like 10 songs that I have downloaded and one episode of the podcast I wanted to store on there. So then I went through and I tried downloading all the episodes. Eventually it said, oh, your computer's running low on space because Apple still is very stingy with their base level storage. And then so I'm like, well, let me just sync what I have, was what I was able to download, and then I can worry about anything else later. It said, we're unable to sync because all of the episodes you've selected are no longer available. But they're there to listen to and stream and download. But when I try to sync it to the iPod, it says they're no longer available. And that part I was not understanding. So eventually I had to just, give up and go, well, this is something, if I really care to, I can dig deep and try to figure out later. But clearly this didn't work on the first try. And now my iPod has nothing on it anymore. So
I think that would be the worst part, is just be like, well, now I just lost all that music that I had on there.
Well, again, just like with you and your movies and everything, it's like I just stream everything anyway.
True.
And
so why did you even have your iPod at work?
I think I brought it because there was a point where they were really cracking down on the... Okay. So I'm like, I'll bring my iPod and I can listen to my music on my iPod.
I'm surprised you still have your iPod.
I mean, it's something I just never thought to get rid of. It just, it lived in like a bin forever. Like this little plastic bin that has other sort of electronic cables and things like that in it.
Of yesteryear.
Yeah, then it's just one of those things where I'm digging through it to try to find something. I'm like, oh yeah, my iPod. I still have that thing.
You had like the big fat one too, right?
It was, I didn't have I never had any of like the nanos or the minis or any of those. Yeah. It was your classic standard iPod.
Big
it was
brick one, yeah.
Yeah, well, you might have seen the white one I had, which was a little chunkier. But eventually I got, because I dropped that one day in the garage, and it worked perfectly, except it wasn't even a color screen one, but the drop had messed up the screen image, so I couldn't see half of what I was scrolling through. So it just made it difficult to actually select more than what I would want to actually listen to. So that's the only reason that I ever replaced it, was because I just couldn't read the screen anymore.
Makes sense.
And so for Christmas, Sarah got me a new iPod that was at the time a current model,
right?
And way more space. It had like 160 gigs on it.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Of which, until before this whole syncing debacle happened, I still had about 126 gigs free. So I'm like, this will be no problem. I'll have plenty of room for these podcasts. So,
yeah, I think the biggest one I had was 80 gig.
I think the one,
it was pretty filled up.
I think the one I had, the original one I had, was something like an 80 or a 640, or it wasn't the biggest one, but it wasn't the smallest one, if I remember right. But that one I got, 05 or 04.
Right.
Yeah, because I was starting to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all these big editing computers we use are Apple computers. So to make it easy to make sure I can work on my stuff at home and bring it to school and easily transfer it, I should probably get an Apple computer.
Right.
And so I ordered a laptop and an iPod. And those are my first Apple products.
There you go.
There I go. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yep. And all the stuff, all the rest of it is also history. It's not just everything else.
Yeah, I mean, everything before this exact moment
is history.
It's history.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're listening, whoever's listening to this right now, this is history.
Yeah.
This happened. You're listening to,
two dead guys.
Younger versions of us.
Oh, I was
like, by the time you hear this, I'm a week older.
That's true. That's true. And a week wiser.
Well,
I'm just double checking the Discord now, and yes, no comments so far.
Perfect.
Just that's the high school famous way.
That's the high school famous guarantee. No content.
Well, we produce an hour and change of content every week.
True.
We will receive no content.
We're on a strict no content order.
Any futuristic experiences for you this week? You're like, oh yeah, I went to the time machine.
What? Time machine? No. I was abducted by aliens.
Oh. Well, that's an old idea.
Yeah. True.
Was there tech futuristic, or did it seem kind of retro?
Wow. Yeah, now that you mention it, it might not have been a UFO. It might have been an Amish person.
It might have been a UAP.
I may have been abducted by an Amish person. It was a buggy and a horse.
Yeah.
And a man in a black hat.
Did he have a long beard and no mustache?
That's the guy. Yeah, that's the exact guy.
Was his name Seamus?
Is that an Amish name?
Is it? I don't know. I think so.
Jebediah.
Jebediah. Was his name Jebediah?
That would have been a better choice.
Sorry.
Damn it. New choice.
See you next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. We promise.
For real.
We promise.
For real this time.
Yeah. No fooling. Bye.
Bye.
If you have a question, complaint, or threat for Sean or Matt, you can reach us on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, X, or Instagram at HSFamousPod, or you can email the show at highschoolfamous@gmail.com. No animals were pleasured during the making of this podcast, despite our best efforts. All hail our Lord and Savior.